On our wedding day, on his way to the ceremony from my place, my boyfriend got a call from Sarah, the one he never forgot. He turned the wedding procession around, picked her up, and took her directly to the wedding venue, swapping out the bride on the spot. When I heard the news, my world came crashing down. I was begging my parents to take me to confront them. But on the way, we got into a car accident. Mom and Dad both died tragically, and I survived because Mom shielded me in her arms. However, I suffered from severe PTSD after my parents' death, and my boyfriend's brother, David Miller, stayed by my side and took care of me for 2 years, never leaving. The day I recovered, David Miller set off fireworks all over the city for me, knelt on one knee, and asked me to marry him. After 2 years of spending day and night together, I had long been moved by David Miller and tearfully said yes. 3 years after we were married, I finally got pregnant. David Miller was so excited he wanted to announce it to the world. But that night, I overheard him questioning Mr. Thompson, "Haven't you been giving her birth control? Why is she pregnant? This child can't be kept." I promised Sarah I wouldn't let another woman have my child. Mr. Thompson's voice trembled, "But if Mrs. Miller, Emily, finds out, it might be hard to clean this up. And if that car accident 5 years ago comes out, and Mrs. Miller, Emily, finds out we arranged it." David Miller chuckled coldly. "For Sarah, I'll do anything. Besides, I've already married her, isn't that enough? But Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller, Emily, has been hoping for this child for 3 years. If she loses this child, she won't be able to live. You orchestrated that car accident back then just so Sarah could smoothly marry your brother. Mrs. Miller, Emily, almost died because of it. Isn't everything you've done enough? Are you going to sacrifice your own child now too?" David Miller's eyes were full of reluctance, and his hand. Some fingers gently stroked a wooden box on his desk. "What does it matter? All I care about is Sarah's happiness. Back then, to ensure she could marry the person she wanted, I had to prevent Emily's family from making it to the wedding. I'm to blame for not handling the car accident properly, leaving Emily alive. But haven't I married her? Her future is secured. As for this child, it can't stay. Sarah is already 4 months pregnant. I can't let my child be an obstacle to Sarah's child. As long as her life is smooth, I will have no regrets left. Tomorrow, I'll take Emily to the hospital for a checkup and have the doctor say the child is unhealthy and can't be kept. That way, no matter how sad she is, there's nothing she can do." I couldn't listen anymore. I stumbled back to the room. The moment I entered, my legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the floor. My marriage, it turned out, had been a lie from the start. My parents' deaths were no accident. My husband was the executioner who killed my parents, and now, he wanted to kill my child too. After my parents died, I was consumed by guilt, thinking it was because I insisted on going to the wedding venue to confront them that the accident happened. I even suffered from severe PTSD. During those 2 years, at the height of my illness, doctors had to tie me tightly to the hospital bed because if they let go, I would harm myself or even try to die. For those 2 years, David Miller stayed by my side constantly, telling me over and over again that it wasn't my fault, that it was an accident. But now I knew, it wasn't an accident. It was proof of David Miller's love for Sarah. Now, to ensure Sarah's child could inherit control of the company without any obstacles, he would even sacrifice his own flesh and blood. Buried beneath this great love of his were my parents' bodies, my entire life, and soon, the life of the child in my womb. Thinking this, I trembled and gently covered my lower abdomen with my hands. Incy. Was the child I had longed for 3 years, but it was also the child of my enemy. Just as I was lost and helpless, David Miller walked into the bedroom and found me collapsed on the floor. The floor is cold. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" David Miller's eyes were filled with worry, almost overflowing, exactly like every day over the past 5 years. In those 5 years, his eyes were only on me. Even if I coughed, he would stay by my bed all night, worried. I lowered my gaze, not wanting to see the intensity in his eyes anymore. "It's nothing. Maybe just discomfort from the early pregnancy. I just lost my balance. David Miller breathed a sigh of relief and carefully helped me up from the floor. Naughty baby, causing trouble for mommy as soon as you arrive. When I meet you, Daddy will give you a good talking to. It's okay, Em. I'll take you to the hospital tomorrow for a checkup. We've been looking forward to this little one for so long, nothing can go wrong. David Miller's gaze fell on my still flat abdomen, his eyes full of tenderness. If I hadn't overheard his conversation with Mr. Thompson just now, I would have believed 100% that everything he said was true. But now, I really wanted to question him. Will we really get to meet this child? Is he truly the child you've been looking forward to for so long? I suppressed the burning in my eyes and nodded. Let's go to sleep, David. I'm a little tired. David Miller didn't suspect a thing, thinking it was just normal fatigue in early pregnancy. I don't know how much time passed, but David Miller's sleep-talking softly broke the silence and the darkness. Sarah. Sarah. My tears finally couldn't be held back any longer, spilling from the corners of my eyes and disappearing into my hair. I felt for my phone under my pillow and sent a message to Michael Evans, who was abroad. Brother, help me. Please help me. I'll come find you in a few days. Wait for me. Early the next morning. David Miller took me to the Miller Group's private hospital for a checkup. Just as we reached the door of the doctor's office, we saw Sarah, her abdomen slightly bulging, coming out of the office. Seeing Sarah alone, David Miller's handsome brows furrowed. You're already 4 months pregnant. Where's Mark Miller? Why didn't he come with you? David Miller's concern was undisguised. I inwardly scoffed. How could I have never noticed something so obvious before? Had the old David Miller been too good at acting, or was I just too stupid? Sarah smiled slightly, seemingly pleased by David Miller's worry. The company has been busy lately. There was a problem with a branch office, and Mark had to fly out temporarily yesterday. Is something wrong, Em? Why are you here at the hospital? Hearing this question, a hint of awkwardness crossed David Miller's face. He seemed reluctant to answer. I pretended not to notice his expression and smiled, gently stroking my abdomen as I spoke softly. I'm pregnant. Mark was worried I might be uncomfortable, and also worried there might be a problem with the baby, so he insisted on bringing me in for a checkup. I knew I had lost this relationship completely, but for just 1 second, I wanted to regain a little bit of dignity. As expected, Sarah's face changed when she heard my words. What? You're pregnant? Perhaps realizing her reaction was too strong, Sarah quickly hid the displeasure on her face and forced a smile. Em getting pregnant is wonderful news. I was just a little surprised. Go on in for your checkup. While I was having my checkup, David Miller patted my head reassuringly before going out to wait for me. Before, I wouldn't have thought anything of this gesture, but now, watching David Miller's retreating back, I had a vague suspicion. After my checkup, I looked out and indeed, there was no one outside the exam room. I walked around the hallway and found David Miller and Sarah in the stairwell. Sarah's pretty brows were slightly furrowed, her face full of dissatisfaction. You said you'd never let her get pregnant with your child? Why is she pregnant? David Miller patiently pulled her into his arms and gently smoothed her brows. We've been using birth control all along. This was an accident. I'll handle it. I'll personally get rid of this child. Don't be unhappy over such a small matter. It pains me. My steps were unsteady as I went back to wait on the bench outside the exam room, David Miller's words echoing in my mind. Small matter. Killing his own child was just a small matter in his eyes. Because Sarah's unhappiness, to him, was the big deal. Are you done with the checkup? I just went to the restroom. I'll go ask the doctor if the results are out. David Miller's voice pulled me back to reality. I nodded, watching him walk into the office. A moment later, David Miller came out of the exam room with a sad expression. He squatted down in front of me, level with my eyes. Em, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise me you won't get agitated or too sad. The baby's test results aren't good. There are developmental issues, so this child, we can't keep it. I had expected this outcome, but I still couldn't give up hope. I stared directly into David Miller's eyes. David Miller, I'll only ask you once. You have to answer me honestly. David Miller nodded solemnly, then I spoke, word by word. Is this child really unhealthy? Do we really have to lose him? David Miller's expression held a fleeting moment of hesitation. But before I could grasp that instant, David Miller's voice had already reached my ears. Yes. Looking into his eyes, I finally stopped struggling, closed my eyes, and nodded heavily. The moment I agreed, David Miller hastily arranged for the hospital to schedule the procedure. I had to admit, the Miller family's private hospital was highly efficient. An hour later, I was being wheeled into the operating room. When I woke up again, the surgery was over, and I had been taken back to the hospital room. I gently reached down and covered my lower abdomen. Tears fell uncontrollably. Yesterday, there was a child here, but now, he was gone. The hospital room door was pushed open, and David Miller walked in, gently wiping away the tears from the corners of my eyes. Good Em, don't cry. We're still young, and we'll have babies in the future. My heart felt like it was being squeezed tightly by a large hand. Will we? David Miller, will we really? But before I could speak, a syrupy voice interrupted me. Oh, Em, don't be sad. Even without the baby, you still have David. Look how much David cares about you. The doctor said you didn't need to stay overnight, but David was worried about your health and insisted you stay for a few days to be sure. It's perfect timing. My stomach hasn't been feeling well these past couple of days, so I'm also staying for a couple of days to protect my pregnancy. We can keep each other company. I looked up at Sarah, not missing the flash of triumph on her face. I wasn't actually very close to Sarah. I only knew that she and the Miller brothers had grown up together as childhood friends. It wasn't until they went to college here and she went abroad for study that they lost touch. Mark Miller and I met in college. The first time I saw him, I fell in love at first sight and began my long journey of pursuing him. From the start, I knew Mark Miller had a former girlfriend, who broke up with him because of the long distance. But after we got together, Mark Miller repeatedly promised me that Sarah's whole family had moved abroad and wouldn't be coming back, and that there was no possibility between them anymore. I believed him. Later, my relationship with Mark Miller became more stable, and he introduced me to his family and friends, including his brother, David Miller. But on our wedding day, Mark Miller received the news of Sarah's return. He immediately abandoned me and chose to marry Sarah instead. Only at that moment did I realize that throughout the 4 years we were together, he had never forgotten her for a single second. But what I didn't know was that Sarah wasn't just Mark Miller's the one he never forgot. In the years Mark Miller was waiting for Sarah, David Miller was also waiting for her. I looked at Sarah coldly, my voice so icy it surprised even myself. You should be calling me Mrs. Miller, Emily. Sarah froze. David Miller immediately shielded her behind him. Sarah just wants to be friendly with you. There's no need to make a big deal out of it. Never mind. You just had surgery and are not in a good mood. Get some rest. I'll head back to the company to take care of some things. Watching their retreating backs, my heart felt like it had been brutally gouged out, cold wind howling through the void. David Miller was Mark Miller's brother, and I was David Miller's wife. Sarah, as Mark Miller's wife, should logically call me Mrs. Miller, Emily. I just stated a simple fact, and David Miller immediately abandoned me right after surgery. In front of Sarah, he couldn't even bother to pretend anymore. I don't know how long passed, but David Miller didn't come back until nightfall. Just then, unpleasant sounds reached my ears. I got out of bed and followed the sounds. The door to the room next door was slightly ajar, and the sounds were coming from there. I peered through the crack in the door and saw David Miller and Sarah having sex, the sounds filled with the atmosphere of intimacy. You wouldn't let me touch you for the first 3 months. You don't know how much I missed you. Sarah's voice was sweet and seemingly pleased by David Miller's words. Don't be so impatient. Now that things are stable, we still shouldn't be too rough. She's in the room next door. Don't let her hear us. David Miller didn't stop his movements at all. Don't worry. The Miller family's hospital has top-notch soundproofing. I've closed the door properly. As David Miller finished speaking, Sarah, who was beneath him, suddenly shifted her gaze and met my eyes in the air. At this moment, what more was there for me not to understand? Sarah was doing it on purpose. She deliberately left the door ajar, deliberately let me see all of this. Seeing her provocative smile, I lowered my eyes and considerately closed the door for them. I had never seen David Miller so out of control before. In our 3 years of marriage, even in bed, David Miller had always been gentle. It turned out, he wasn't naturally cold. The person who could ignite his passion was never me. Early the next morning, Sarah walked into my hospital room. She looked at me with triumph all over her face. She took something resembling a sachet from her waist and poured the grayish-white powder inside onto my bed. "Did you enjoy the show last night? This is my punishment for you daring to get pregnant." "But what if you were pregnant? Your child had no right to be born anyway because David only cares about me. To prevent your child from competing with mine for control of the company in the future, he could simply ensure your child wasn't born. He can't stand for my child to face any obstacles in the future, and he can't stand for anything to go wrong with me. Not only that, even your parents, after they died, couldn't rest in peace and had to become my amulet." I suddenly raised my head, my voice trembling uncontrollably. "What did you say?" Sarah smirked, seemingly pleased with my reaction. "After your parents died, you were half dead, and David took care of all their affairs personally. A spiritual advisor told me that I had bad luck after going abroad because I was plagued by bad luck. Since your parents died in a tragic accident and their souls couldn't rest, an amulet made from their ashes could help me ward off the bad luck." It seems the spiritual advisor was right. In the 5 years since your parents died, wearing this amulet, my luck has been more than just a little good. My heart suddenly raced, and a ball of anger felt like it was about to explode in my chest. David Miller. How could he? How dare he? I couldn't hold back any longer and slapped Sarah hard across the face. Sarah was holding her face, about to curse, when David Miller's startled shout suddenly erupted. "Emily! What are you doing?" Hearing his voice, the triumph on Sarah's face turned into a look of grievance. I was just worried you were unhappy about losing the baby and wanted to comfort you. How could you think I was showing off my pregnancy? I know you resent me for taking Mark, but that's all in the past. You and David are very happy now, aren't you?" David Miller stared menacingly at Sarah's swollen cheek, then turned and roared at me. "Emily, what exactly are you doing? How could you be so vicious? She's pregnant." I ignored his accusation, my eyes fixed on him. "I'm asking you, where are my parents' ashes?" David Miller paused, seemingly unsure why I was asking this. "They're buried in the cemetery, of course." "Why are you asking about that?" Sarah's face changed, and she grabbed David Miller's hand. "David, my stomach feels really uncomfortable. Come with me to get it checked out. I'm worried something's wrong with the baby." David Miller seemed to want to say something else, his lips fumbling for a while, but in the end, he helped Sarah leave first. After they left the hospital room, I walked straight out of the hospital. When I got home, I didn't take anything except my bank cards and my ID/driver's license. Before leaving, I signed the divorce papers I had printed in advance and left them on the coffee table in the living room. David Miller, Sarah. When we meet again, I'll give you a grand gift. Just as I arrived at the airport, my phone rang. Are you home? I just saw your hospital room was empty, but Sarah's stomach is really uncomfortable right now, and Mark is away on a business trip and can't get back. As a brother, I definitely have to help him look after her. You also know that if you hadn't hit her just now, Sarah wouldn't have been put the pregnancy at risk. Please be more understanding. I know you're unhappy right now. Don't worry, I'll come home tomorrow and make it up to you. I had left the hospital hours ago, and he was only just realizing I wasn't in the hospital room. How ridiculous. Okay. Hearing my answer, David Miller on the other end of the line clearly relaxed. Be good. I know you didn't mean it today. You're just upset because you lost the baby. I shouldn't have gotten angry with you. You shouldn't be home alone either. I just sent Mr. Thompson home. He brought your favorite soup. Make sure you drink some and don't go hungry. I know I was wrong. You always wanted me to write you handwritten love letters, didn't you? I'll write you one as soon as I get back. I promise it will be a big surprise. Because of David Miller's last sentence, after hanging up, the scene I had just seen in the study kept replaying in my mind. When I went to David Miller's study to get a pen to sign the divorce papers, I saw that wooden box on his desk. This wooden box had been in the most prominent place on his desk for so many years, and I had never opened it on my own. Remembering how his fingers had been gently stroking this box during his conversation with Mr. Thompson that day, I inexplicably opened it. Inside were letters, handwritten love letters filled with genuine affection. In shaky handwriting, it said, "6-year-old Sarah is so beautiful, like a little princess from a fairy tale." In neat handwriting, it said, "Sarah didn't do well on her high school entrance exam. Her eyes were red from crying today, like a little bunny." In wild, flowing handwriting, it said, "Sarah seems to like my brother more. My brother is also getting ready to confess." Both the handwriting and the content. These letters, one after another, told me that David Miller's love for Sarah was far deeper and longer lasting than I had ever imagined. In my eyes, handwritten letters were the most sincere way to express love. In a time when communication was slower and more deliberate, they poured their deep affection into the tip of the pen. David Miller's handwriting was also exceptionally beautiful, so countless times I had wanted to receive a handwritten love letter from him. At those times, David Miller would always pull me into his arms affectionately, his face full of helplessness. It's a different era now. Handwritten is so old-fashioned. But now it seemed he didn't think handwritten letters were old-fashioned, it was just that I wasn't worth that romance. He was willing to write hundreds of unsent handwritten letters to that girl, yet he was stingy with even a single word for me. The triumphant tone in his voice on the phone just now made me laugh hollowly. Something that was trash discarded by someone else was supposed to be a big surprise for me? The boarding announcement sounded. I snapped my SIM card in half and turned off my phone. Meanwhile, back at the Miller Group's hospital, David Miller felt a sudden pang of unease. The more he thought about it, the more he felt Emily's tone on the phone just now was off. Mr. Thompson burst into the hospital room, carrying a thermos, his expression panicked. "Mr. Miller, the madam is gone." David Miller's eyes were fixed on the thermos. "Why didn't you give her the soup?" "What do you mean, gone?" Mr. Thompson lowered his head and handed over the divorce papers he was tightly clutching. "The madam's clothes and personal belongings are all here, but her ID/driver's license is missing, and this was on the coffee table." David Miller froze, his eyes glued to the paper. But before he could speak, Sarah, lying on the hospital bed, scoffed. "Is Emily out of her mind? After all these years of marriage, she's still playing games? David, she's still angry with you, see? But it's my fault too, I should and have gone to see her. Although I just wanted to check on her, I didn't expect her to be so sensitive. She just said a couple of things and then got physical. You must have had a hard time all these years, huh? It's okay, I'll explain things to her later. But David, you really need to talk to her. Why is she reacting so strongly to my pregnancy? Could it be she still cares about Mark Miller? But don't worry, where can an orphan with no mom and dad go? She wouldn't dare actually divorce you." David Miller didn't say a word, his eyes fixed intently on the divorce papers. 2 years of companionship, 3 years of marriage. David Miller had known Emily for 5 years, he naturally understood her. Because of her parents' deaths and her brother being abroad, Emily had always been extremely insecure, so she would never threaten him with breaking up or divorce. David Miller still clearly remembered Emily standing in front of him on their wedding day, in her pure white wedding dress, speaking each word with certainty. "David Miller, if one day you stop loving me, don't lie to me. Just tell me, and I'll leave on my own. But as long as you love me, no matter what happens, I will never use divorce to threaten you." Thinking back on those words now, David Miller felt a cold sweat break out on his back. Emily's love had always been straightforward and honest, she disdained such manipulative games. Seeing that David Miller hadn't spoken for a long time, Sarah grew anxious. "David, you haven't actually been fooled by Emily, have you? You're a man, you don't understand these women's tricks." I've seen many women like her. She's just trying to control you with these tactics. Hearing Sarah continue to speak like this, David Miller felt an inexplicable irritation. I believe Em told you yesterday that you should call her Mrs. Miller, Emily. Sarah was startled by David Miller's low voice and quickly tried to justify herself. I just wanted to be a little closer to her. We're about the same age. Don't worry. She just can't stand that I'm pregnant with Mark Miller's child and her own child is gone. Besides, you know best, she had a mental breakdown after her parents died. She's crazy, her emotions are inherently unstable. You don't need to bother with her. This time, David Miller couldn't take it anymore. He looked up and met Sarah's eyes directly. Why is her child gone? Don't you know? Why did her parents have that accident? Aren't you very clear about that too? You were the one who wanted to go abroad and firmly break up with Mark. If you think about it, you were the one who came between her and Mark. How can you, the one who used tricks, stand here and accuse her so righteously? With so many people in this world, those words are the last that should come out of your mouth. David Miller started to get up. Sarah resorted to her old trick, covering her abdomen tightly with both hands. David, my stomach. She still thought she was David Miller's the one he never forgot, unaware that what she had just said had shattered the illusion he held of her in his heart. Once that the one he never forgot filter was broken, how could a smart man like David Miller not hear the implications of Sarah's words? So this time, David Miller directly interrupted her. Mark is my brother. By rights, you should call me David. If your stomach is uncomfortable, you should find the man who got you pregnant, not me. I've helped you enough. From now on, you and Mark should live your own lives. I have my own family too. Also, 5 years ago, my wife didn't have a mental breakdown, she suffered from severe PTSD. Please watch your mouth from now on. If I ever hear you say something like that again, I absolutely will not let you off the hook. After saying these words, David Miller didn't spare Sarah, who was on the verge of tears, another glance. He left the hospital room with Mr. Thompson, not looking back. After walking out of the hospital room, David Miller stopped. He turned back to look at the viewing window on the hospital room door, his eyes fixed on Sarah, who was still frozen on the hospital bed. He understood Emily. If it were just the conflict from this morning, Emily would never have left so resolutely. David Miller withdrew his gaze and walked directly towards the hospital entrance. Find out what happened in the hospital over the past 2 days. Find out every single detail. While the hospital was in turmoil, across the ocean, my plane landed safely at the airport abroad. The moment I saw my brother, I finally couldn't hold back and started crying uncontrollably, as if to weep away all the grievances of the past few days. After listening to everything I had to say, my brother wanted to fly back here immediately and take the lives of that couple. I stopped my brother, who was consumed by rage. 5 years have passed since the car accident. We don't have evidence now. The Miller Group's foundation here is deep. If we act rashly, we won't be able to touch them. My brother's anger gradually subsided, but his fists were still tightly clenched. You're right, but I haven't been idle abroad these past few years. The overseas market is stable now, and I'm preparing to expand here, so I know quite a few people here. Don't worry. You've suffered enough these past few years. Leave everything to me from now on. We'll get back everything they owe the Evans family. My heart ached, and the tears I had just held back began to stream down again. When Mom and Dad had their accident, it was a critical time for the rapid expansion of the Evans family's overseas business, and my brother couldn't leave. It wasn't until the accident that my brother rushed back here and saw me, already suffering from severe PTSD. David Miller advised my brother to return quickly, saying that since things were already like this, my illness needed treatment, and the Evans family's overseas business couldn't afford any more setbacks. David Miller promised my brother that he would take good care of me. At that time, David Miller did indeed take very good care of me. My brother was busy with business and couldn't be with me constantly, so he believed David Miller. We just never expected that the good man was not a good man at all, but a beast. While we were actively collecting evidence, David Miller here was going crazy. He hadn't gone to the Miller Group office for a long time and stayed at home all day. A whole week later, David Miller finally sent Mr. Thompson to pick up Sarah. Sarah just assumed David Miller's anger had subsided. After all, David Miller had always done whatever she wanted over the years. She didn't believe he would truly ignore her, so she happily went to meet him. David, you finally came to your senses. What? Is there any news about Em? I told you, she definitely can't bring herself to actually divorce you. What I said back then was true, right? I've seen plenty of women like her. She hadn't finished speaking when David Miller grabbed her chin harshly, swallowing her words instantly. Seeing the cruel look in David Miller's eyes, Sarah finally felt afraid. David, what's wrong, David? I'm your Sarah. I was just worried about Em. Don't be like this, I'm scared. David Miller's face was ashen. The hand clutching Sarah's chin tightened further. His voice was as cold as a demon from hell. You're scared? Sarah, you even dared to carry a dead person's ashes around as an amulet, and you still know how to be scared? Sarah's expression froze, and she immediately tried to argue. David Miller didn't give her the chance and violently threw her to the ground. Stop acting in front of me. I knew something was off that day, so I had someone search Emily's hospital room thoroughly. There was an amulet on her bed, and that amulet was clearly something you've been carrying with you. I immediately sent the contents for testing, and the result was it was her mom and dad's ashes. Sarah. Have you always been such a vicious and terrifying woman? If you hadn't said those things about Emily that day, I would never have realized something was wrong. With the evidence right there, Sarah knew she couldn't argue and could only speak tearfully. I didn't mean to, David. I had a hard time when I was abroad. My family went bankrupt, Mom and Dad were seriously ill. A spiritual advisor said I was plagued by bad luck and needed this amulet to suppress the evil. David Miller didn't want to hear her excuses anymore and kicked her hard. Shut up. Everything you do has a reason, an excuse. What about Emily? Emily has never hurt anyone. Why does she have to endure all of this? Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I also checked the hospital hallway surveillance footage. Before you seduced me in the room next door, you deliberately and quietly opened the door. You wanted Emily to discover everything, you wanted to force her to leave on her own, so I would continue to be your overly devoted follower. Sarah, do you care that much about your son? Are you that afraid of Emily getting in your way? Well, you better open your eyes and watch carefully how your son dies. As soon as David Miller finished speaking, several men in black suits walked in from outside the door. Sarah backed away, clutching her abdomen, her voice full of terror. David Miller, what are you doing? I'm pregnant with a child. He's your nephew, the Miller family's only bloodline. David Miller looked as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. My nephew? I can get rid of my own son. What's a nephew? Drag her down to the basement. Cut that garbage out of her stomach and make sure it gets cremated. After all, Sarah likes using ashes as an amulet. So, an amulet made from your own son's ashes will probably be even more effective, wouldn't it? A moment later, the Miller family estate echoed with screams like those of a demon. At the same time, my brother and I had also finished collecting some evidence of the Miller Group's illegal operations over the years. My brother's friends here had also contacted us, saying they had found the person who caused the car accident and were just waiting for us to return here to ask for details. Just then, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, a familiar figure knelt down. Come home with me. Before I could react, my brother's fist landed heavily on David Miller. You beast! You actually dared to show up. What did you promise me back then? Is this how you took care of my sister? David Miller was such a proud man, but now, facing the punches my brother rained down on him one after another, he didn't fight back, only kept apologizing. I'm sorry. I'm a beast, it's my fault. Brother, I'm begging you, let me talk to Em for a few minutes. Hearing David Miller's words, my brother's punches grew harder. Don't call me brother. I'm not your brother. I grabbed my brother. Stop hitting him. You'll kill him. We're not like them, those ruthless beasts. David Miller, go away. I have nothing to say to you. Seeing my brother stop, David Miller immediately straightened up on his knees. I'm not leaving unless you come with me. I haven't signed the divorce papers yet. You're still my wife. Let's go home together. Hearing this, my brother was so angry he wanted to strike again. I shook my head at my brother and then looked at David Miller, who was kneeling in front of me. Go back with you to do what? Watch you and Sarah continue to be intimate in the room next door? Continue to watch you sweat over her? Or are you planning to kill me this time and use my ashes to continue making her an amulet? David Miller's shoulders stiffened. He quickly opened his mouth to deny it. No, I didn't give her mom and dad's ashes. She bribed someone at the funeral home herself. I scoffed. So what? Ignorance is bliss? You didn't know, so I should forgive you and go home to be your wife again? Then why were my parents sent to the funeral home? Do you really think you can still hide it? Do you really think I don't know how my mom and dad died? David Miller, I heard everything you and Mr. Thompson said in the study that day. David Miller's face instantly turned pale. He fumbled for words for a long time but couldn't utter another sound. My tears fell in large drops. So, David Miller, you killed my parents. What makes you think I would go back with you? Epilogue, my tears dripped onto David Miller's hand, and he flinched as if burned. No, listen to me explain. I didn't mean to kill mom and dad. I just wanted to stop you from ruining the wedding, but the person I hired didn't handle it properly, and that's why the accident happened. I didn't want to listen anymore. Enough. They weren't your mom and dad. David Miller, every word you say now makes me sick. You didn't know, you didn't mean to. Can those words bring my mom and dad back? What right do you have to beg for my forgiveness here? David Miller's eyes were red-rimmed. After a long silence, he spoke softly. I'm sorry. I was amused by his 3 words. Sorry? If you're really sorry, give me back their lives. Use your life, use Sarah's life, to exchange for my mom and dad's lives and my child's life. 2 for 3, David Miller, you'd be making a profit. David Miller looked up in disbelief. Do you really hate me that much? I slammed the door shut, not saying another word to him. Hate? How could I not hate him? I wanted to slice him into 1,000 pieces. I wanted him to go to hell. I don't know when David Miller left. All I know is that when I opened the door the next day, no one was outside, only the divorce papers. In the end, David Miller signed. Before boarding the plane back here with my brother, a sum of money, reaching billions, appeared in my account. As soon as the plane landed, financial news was playing on the large display screen at the airport in the capital city. Miller grow up. CEO Mr. Miller, referring to David, recently turned himself in, confessing to intentionally causing a traffic accident 5 years ago that resulted in the immediate death of Mr. and Mrs. Evans. The driver responsible has also been apprehended. Furthermore, Mr. Miller, referring to David, confessed everything regarding the matter regarding harming Sarah/the pregnancy and may be sentenced to death. According to Mr. Miller, referring to David's testimony, police have found the victim's body in Mr. Miller, referring to David's residential basement. The body had multiple wounds, the abdomen was dismembered, and it is suspected that the victim suffered inhumane abuse before death. Before turning himself in, Mr. Miller, referring to David, had sold his shares. Mark Miller, the second son, has taken over as CEO. My brother stood frozen in front of the large display screen. I put on my sunglasses and pulled my suitcase, walking towards the exit. Don't watch. It's not over yet. The Miller Group hasn't collapsed yet. 3 days later, the financial news channel broadcast another story. The Miller Group recently faced a tax evasion report. After verification by the relevant authorities, the amount involved totaled hundreds of millions. The current head, Mark Miller, will be facing legal action/facing charges. My brother and I were lounging on the couch, watching the news and raising our glasses. The Miller family is completely finished now. Their lives are ruined. But David Miller is dead. Aren't you sad at all? I narrowed my eyes, looking at the small bubbles in my glass. Through the haze, I seemed to be back on the day David Miller proposed to me. That day, fireworks filled the sky. David Miller knelt on one knee, holding flowers. Marry me. This life, I promise I will never let you down. The fireworks were truly beautiful that day. Their reflection shone in David Miller's eyes. His eyes were even brighter than the sky full of fireworks. It was as if all the stars in the universe had fallen into his eyes. Was David Miller sincere at that moment? I don't know his answer, but I was sincere at that moment. I drank the wine in my glass in one gulp. But the past is the past. David Miller, never to see you again. End of novel.